Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Kirk Ball with Answer Global, and today I have the pleasure of spending time with Arvind Jain of Glean, which is really a fascinating product set that you've put together. I'm really interested to get into it with you a little bit and talk about Glean. Fascinating opportunity, fascinating product. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about what is Glean? And how are organizations starting to use it? And what are the use cases that you see as they apply the Glean capability?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. So Glean, think of Glean like Google or ChatGPT, but inside your enterprise. Glean connects, with all of your enterprise data and information and knowledge, and then gives you this one experience where your employees can go and ask questions, and Glean will answer those questions using all of your internal company knowledge. So that's the simplest way to describe, what we do. We are an enterprise AI company, and our mission is to help enterprises embrace AI and make their workers more productive.
Boy, I can't tell you how many times I've worked at an enterprise and I've thought, okay, where's this set of information? Where's this knowledge at? And, it's scattered all over the organization. It's hard to find. Certain people don't, not everybody knows where all the information and data is. How'd you come up with this idea?
Well, I mean, there you go. Like, you said it yourself, like all of us struggle, with finding information,
We
all the
do.
time. That's what was happening to me. Like, it's happened to me all my life. But actually the real catalyst happened when I was at my previous startup, Rubric. We we had this startup, we were successful, growing fast, and within 4 years, we're more than 1,000 people. And suddenly we realized that we were not getting any work done, like inside the company. My productivity was sort of like came to a screeching halt. Like, no matter how many people you like bring into the company, like, just don't seem to get to write any more code. And so we asked our employees, we do a pulse survey. And in that, like, we learned that our employees were complaining that, like, hey, I cannot find anything in this company. I don't know where to go and look for things, and I also don't know who to go and ask for help. That was actually our lowest scoring question in our company survey. And so that sort of got me thinking, like, like, look, this is, I've been frustrated with it, but so is the rest of the company, and it's sort of coming, in the way of real productivity. Um, and it's not a surprise, like, as businesses, we have so much information that we have these days inside our company. Like, that information is growing exponentially every year, and it's also spread across so many different systems. You do need something, like, you need more help. You need to somehow, like, make it easy for people to find that information, because 1/3 of all of their working time is just spent looking for information. So that was it. Like, we saw that problem, and I ran into it. And I'm a search engineer by training. I worked at Google for many, many years building Google search. And and it was sort of shocking for me to to sort of find out that, like, hey, nobody's actually trying to help people in their work lives, like, trying to find things. So that's what led us to create Glean in 2019.
Yeah, think about, I just think about the opportunity to use a product like a Glean for, new employees, folks that are coming in, they're trying to get, acclimated to the enterprise and get acclimated to their role. What a great way to accelerate their learning and accelerate their productivity from starting to getting them productive pretty quickly. It's a great opportunity. And then obviously, for folks that have worked at a place for quite a while, just the massive amounts of knowledge that are available that they may not even know about, even though you've been there and worked at that enterprise for several years. So you mentioned earlier that you came up with this idea, it kind of hit you at Rubric, but you also mentioned that you worked on Google search. You were a distinguished engineer at Google. How did that experience at Google help you as you went to develop the product and the technology for the Glean platform?
Yeah. So first of all, the the whole idea of, like, that, yes, I can go and solve this problem, that came, because of, that experience that, I had working on Google search. Um, and not just me. So, like, our initial team, like most of our people, actually, um, came from Google. Like all of us had worked, like spent like, over a decade of our engineering careers building search. And so when we built our team together, that was sort of the first part, like is, finding people with the right experience. And and then we've been able to utilize those experiences in building Glean in a very significant way. I mean, although the problem is actually very different, like solving the web search problem versus solving the problem of search inside your enterprise, um, fundamentally different, like in many ways. But there are still like like very relevant experiences that we could actually take from our experiences building Google search. Um, so like I'll share some of those. Like one of them is that the search is a lot about, to build good search, you have to understand people, and you have to understand their information needs. You have to understand how they engage with knowledge on the web, or in this case, in our case, knowledge in the enterprise. And that's really the key. So when you build a product, it's not about matching the words in a query that somebody enters with the words in the document. Like that's actually very sort of that's actually a very basic thing. You really have to understand people and their roles and what they do. um, and 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 typically, like people like them, like what information they engage with. These are sort of the things that we learned in Google, like that understand the user, understand knowledge, understand interactions, and use that, use all of that to sort of build the magic. um the so yeah, so that's one of the things. Yeah.
So, talk a little bit about the architecture, the technology approach that Glean takes. Is there a private large language model that sits underneath of Glean?
Yeah.
Do you do a knowledge index across all the different types of information? What kind of data
Yeah.
can be put into the knowledge graph, if you will? Talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So first and foremost, the like Glean connects with all of your different enterprise systems. So we have, a rich library of very deep integrations with most common enterprise applications. So, think about applications like Microsoft 365 apps, Office, right? Think about Google Drive, Gmail, Outlook, Slack, Zoom, Salesforce, ServiceNow, Atlassian. So think about like all the most popular systems, where work happens today. So Glean connects with all of those systems, and it brings data from all of those systems into its sort of into a unified search index. So that's the first layer of Glean. Then you think about like and this is where enterprise search is so different from web search. Like all the information that you have in your company is actually, there's some governance behind it. Like a document, like only you may have access to, is private to you, or like
Right.
two people in the company may have access to. So you have to understand who can actually access what knowledge. So that's the second part of our core technology, is understanding permissions and governance and access controls. And so while we're indexing all of your company information, we're also keeping track of what users and what groups can access what information. This is fundamental to, like, as I'll
Sure.
explain, the stack. The third part of Glean is actually understanding your enterprise, building this knowledge graph, which basically the knowledge graph that includes people, that includes the actual data and knowledge, and the relationship between them. This is super important. So when Glean gets deployed, it will actually know in the company that, hey, this person is an engineer, this person works in the marketing team, is building that understanding of people. And on the other side, when you think about knowledge, it's also taking a document. It's actually going to actually build an understanding of that. What is this document really talking about? Is it about a specific project, is it about a particular concept? Is it actually a financial contract? Is it actually a technical document? um, that's sort of like, so understanding, like what a given document is about. Also understanding like who actually makes use of it, who created it. Like is it some, is it not, if it's an onboarding guide, is it actually meant for the marketing team, or is it meant for the engineering team? You sort of have to sort of start to build that understanding of like your actual knowledge and the relationships between people and knowledge. And this knowledge graph is actually essential to then, like uh really rank and answer questions correctly for people. um so this is sort of the stack, like actually going very deep, but like let me just summarize. So first, integrations into all enterprise systems.
Hmm.
Second, understanding governance. like who has permissions to what. Third, building this knowledge graph, so actually understanding how knowledge is consumed in this company. And now, you build this core search technology, which makes use of all of this. So when you come and ask a question in Glean, first it will know who you are. So it'll only use the knowledge, that you are authorized to use and show that to you.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's an incredibly important aspect, that governance and who has access to what
exactly.
knowledge, if you will. So that's
Right.
that's that's awesome that you can build that into the product.
Yeah. And then the second thing is, like, it knows who you are. So if you ask for an onboarding guide, and if you are in the engineering team, Glean is going to show you something, you know, else versus if you're in the marketing team. Like, it sort of knows, like, it understands your role. So what information is actually going to be meaningful to you? That's a big part of it. So like personalize the results based on your deep understanding of, of the enterprise.
Hmm.
Um, but then this is where AI models come into play. Um, we've been using large language models, from day one, like 5 years back, before like it became like the talk of the town. The Because if you look back at the history, the large language models were actually invented in Google to some degree, right?
Hmm.
And that's where it really got popularized. But the models are actually built to make search better. And so we were actually able to leverage, those advances from day one. And so when you search in Glean, it actually doesn't search and tries to match words from your query, to the words in the document. That's actually one part of it. It actually understands conceptually, what your question is, and also understands the semantics and the, of the documents, and actually does that matching in that sort of, like sort of, conceptual space, which is what, like, these days people call it vector search. But we've been doing that, for the last 5 years before that terminology actually came into
Right.
play. So semantic search is a big part of Glean, and we do that by basically, training these models on your enterprise corpus and then making use of them to do semantic search. And then finally, uh, the over time, like, these models got really, really good. So before, we could only use them behind the scenes. So the product still looks like Google. You ask a question and it's going to surface the right information back to you. And we're using the power of language models to really rank well and, surface the
Mhm.
best information on the top. But now we can actually go many steps further. And first, you can actually come in Glean and ask a very complicated question. You can actually converse with it. You can give it, like, 2 pages worth of your thoughts and make Glean work on it. Right. And so we use, the power of these, modern super large language models to actually really understand people's intent and questions. And then on the other side, like, now once we surface the right information from the core Glean search, capabilities, we can actually not just surface that information back to people, but we can actually work on it. We can actually go and read those documents using the power of AI and actually synthesize, the exact precise response that people are looking for. So that's sort of the overall, like, how the technology works. You can think of it as a permissions aware RAG, based, AI application architecture.
No, that's perfect. That's what I wanted to get into, and it's fascinating how you think about the development of the product and the different components that you have to think about. Um, Without mentioning any customers' names, I'd like you just to talk about a couple of examples how the utilization of Glean is just really revolutionizing the way companies work, the way that they go to market, the way that they accelerate productivity within their organizations.
So let's take the first example, one of the largest telecom companies in the world. They have a massive call center, 100,000 plus, customer care agents trying to, continuously answer questions that are coming from their customers, um, and trying to actually find answers to those questions, like in your sort of, a plethora of knowledge articles, like, that you have within the company. So this company is using Clean, um, and as basically the core tool available to all of their customer care agents. Whenever a customer asks for, a question, um, Glean will automatically take that question and actually pick the right sort of answers from that knowledge base and put it in front of the customer care agent. Customer care agent,
What a great way to drive the effectiveness of that customer care agent and improving that customer experience. That's awesome.
absolutely. Yeah, and so the results are amazing. Like, they've seen, like, over 25%, reduction in case resolution time with that. And
That's
so there's sort of
fantastic.
real hard ROI that AI can actually generate, like, with this. So that's one example. So this is very, very functional, like very specific to
Mhm.
to one type of, like, employee within your company. But then there's another company, one of the largest engineering companies in the world. um, they have deployed Glean across their entire company. And this is more typical for how Glean gets deployed. You take our tool, you connect it with all of your company information, and then you just offer that as an assistant to everybody inside the company. And this is an open-ended general purpose assistant. People have it, like whether you're an engineer, whether you're a marketer, and you're going in there asking questions. So engineers, for example, for them, they go to Glean and they ask questions like, around, like, how do I troubleshoot this issue? Like, I'm running into this problem, getting this, product's not working the way it's supposed to. How do I solve it? And so Glean goes in and actually, like, helps them sort of debug and troubleshoot issues by finding, the relevant knowledge that sort of is going to be helpful to actually, sort of do the root cause analysis and troubleshoot that issue. So that's a very big, large use case for engineering teams. They've reported, um, like, I think 145, engineering, engineering years of, like, time savings already, by deploying Glean, across their enterprise. Um,
Arvin, do
yeah.
you see anybody thinking about, let's take that second use case
Mm.
that you gave
Yeah.
and turn it around just a little bit. Do you see anybody exposing
Yeah.
internal corporate knowledge externally? So, for example, if I wanted to expose engineering information, not proprietary engineering information, but for users to try and solve their own problem, do you see anybody turning the and exposing certain parts of their content to their customer base for them to try to solve their own problems?
Yeah, I mean, so the typically, like, on developer portals or support portals, companies will often put the like articles and documentation on
Exactly.
how to use, their own knowledge about their products. Like, they bring it directly to their customers. So that's
Exactly.
actually, like, not a new thing. Like, of course, companies have been doing that for a long time. What is new now is that, like, see, like, if I go, let's take an example. Let's say that, like, I'm trying to use cloud services on AWS, and there is massive documentation. Like, if I go to, like, AWS, like, console, like, there's so much I'm overwhelmed. Like, although there's so much, the company has actually put, like, a lot of, like, great documentation online, but this is still, like, like, when I have simple questions, I don't have the time or energy to sort of go browse or try to find those things. So that's
Right.
what companies are doing now, is that, like, not just, like, put all the knowledge that's actually not proprietary, but it's useful to their customers on a portal. But now they want to actually first make it searchable, which they've been doing for a long time.
Hmm.
But they want to actually have a great search now, like, where I can just, like, talk to this knowledge base. I can actually go and ask questions.
Sure.
How do I solve problems? And you again use the power of AI, make it work on that, that knowledge. And so, yeah, so that's actually, that's a big use case. Like, our customers are doing it too.
Well, I want to, as we come to the close of our discussion, this has been fascinating for me, and I'm sure our audience will definitely want to go check out the Glean product suite and look at the opportunities to apply Glean to their organization. But you're obviously a future forward thinker. You've worked at some great companies. What is the one or two things that you think generative AI, how it's going to change the future of work? If you just speculate and what's your vision say?
Well, see, one of the things with, like, we believe that a lot of work that all of us do, like whether it's me, whether it's you, whether it's an engineer somewhere or a marketing person, a lot of the work that we do manually today is going to actually be done by AI in the very near future. I'm not talking about 20 years from now. I'm talking about, like, maybe a year or two or three from now,
Mhm.
where the nature of our work is going to fundamentally change. And that's what Lean's goal is. Like, we want to actually bring an AI based assistant um, to everybody who works in the enterprise.
Mhm.
One of the things that I actually, like, like to sort of help you understand, like, the power of AI. Imagine this. So, as an executive in a company, today you have the luxury of having executive assistants, um, and they should do half of your work for you. They will help you do sort of like the mundane things around, like,
Sure.
help you schedule meetings, manage your calendar, reply, like manage your email. Um, but but they're actually, they know a lot about you and your sort of like life and your needs, and like, in terms of like, what you need today to do your work, what's your weekly
Right.
goals. And that's how they actually like help you, like, take a lot of, work off of your plate. And but the problem is that, that luxury is actually is it's a luxury that, only the executives have today. Um, and but we think that in the future, there's going to be assistants that all of us should have, not just executives. Every single person who works will have this really amazing, smart AI assistant that truly understands them and actually do a lot of work for them. More than
And
50% of the work that you do today is going to be done by AI in the future, and we're going to up-level ourselves. So that's sort of like, that, we think, we're very confident that that's where the world is going. The A lot of work that, like, that we do today is not going to be done by us anymore.
well,
Yeah,
it's certainly going to drive a lot of increase in productivity. That's for sure.
exactly, yeah. So it sort of up levels, people's work. Like, all the sort of the the hard part of, like, collecting a lot of data, trying to sort of analyze it, synthesize it, analyze it. Like, AI sort of like, just turbocharges a lot of those things for us. Um, so that's our vision. Like, we want to bring that assistance to every single person in the world, like help enterprises, adopt and embrace AI as fast as they can. And that's actually the just I would like, I would like to close with that too, that AI is super powerful, it's amazing, it's great, but it's also very, very difficult to actually tap into, to leverage. Um, and like, people talk about hallucinations, and that's certainly one of the problems with, the AI technology, that, like,
Sure.
it's not predictable, and so you have to work hard on, like, grounding it, um, and making it reliable. And so this so of course we do that, a lot of that work for our customers. But then the second thing is that AI is also, it can actually also be, potentially dangerous in some sense, like, because in like, it can, like, you have to sort of be very careful about, like, how to deliver a safe, secure, and responsible AI experience. You can't have, you can't take, for example, all of your company's data and information and knowledge and just dump it into an AI model and then give it to every single employee in your company, because now you're leaking information
Right.
internally. So you have to be careful about those things. You have to be careful about, even if you have, even if you have the AI system like ours, where, we make sure that we'll never use the information that you as a user don't have, access to, when we're helping you, with your task. Even that is not enough, because, like, companies have gaps in governance. Like today, you have information that's sensitive, uh, but it's actually not protected adequately. But it's not a problem because nobody finds it anyway. Like, you don't know, like, where all the information is sitting, wherever. Um, but in the future, like, AI is connected with everything, so it's going to make it easy for people to actually make use of all of that information. So that's another thing, which people have to, in enterprises have to think about. So, like, how do you sort of, um, like, take this really amazing technology but actually make it work for you? um the like, finding the right sort of products that can help you deliver AI safely in your enterprise, that's
Mhm.
sort of really the key.
Yeah, I think, like all great inventions throughout the history of mankind, I think you have to make sure that you're managing them effectively. They can be used for positive or they can be used for negative. And I think your advice and your examples are really, really well taken. Last question for you. You just raised, I think, a $200 million investment round, which is fantastic. Congratulations. What's next for Glean besides, certainly acquiring more customers? But what do you see? Where do you see the evolution of Glean going?
Yeah, so I mean, we are in very early stages of our journey as a company. When we think about the product, the one way to think about what we're building is, it's a place where you can come and ask questions, and we have to provide you the right answers. So in some sense, we have to deliver magic to you, because, we're telling you that, no matter what questions you have, we have the answers for that, right? And the
Right.
correct answers for it. So, and that's a problem that, that takes time. So, like, we feel like, we'll be working on this problem for a very, very long time. And and just make it better and better, like, more accurate, more reliable, more capable in terms of, like, what kind of questions we can answer. So in that sense, like, we don't see ourselves really thinking about building, more products. It's just about, like, how do you make this one
Hmm.
product, like, more capable. Well, one, like, one, interesting, product direction for us is, like, we want to actually bring assistance. So it's not about just answering a question for you. Like, when you come in Glean, you can actually do work there. It's going to help you do your work. I can go in there and, for example, like, let's say I just had a meeting with a customer. I can ask Glean after the meeting to say, like, here, help me generate a follow-up email. um, and to do that work for me. It's actually creating materials for me that I need to do my work. uh, and it's also, like, it's going to help you take actions. So when it's a true assistant, um, I can actually tell it, for example, like, hey, go and send this email to someone, or like help schedule this meeting for me.
Hmm.
Everything that you sort of, like, where you think about, like, having an assistant today who helps you, like, Glean is going to actually help you do all of that. So having that ability to take actions in, like, all these different other systems that you have in your enterprise from within the Glean interface is another, like, product direction for us. And then finally, I would say that assistance is not about, me going and always asking, the assistant to help me with something. The assistant actually also is proactive, and it actually comes to me and and sort of helps me do my work, helps me manage my time, and proactively, like, provides, that assistance, to us. So those are some of the, like, some of the directions in terms of the product, where we headed. And then in terms of company, like, like, as you said, like, we have to grow and scale, and our ambition is to be that de facto uh, tool that every single person in the, every single worker in every single company in the world uses to get more work done. So, like, there's a long ways for us to go there.
Well, look, I think you certainly have created the foundation for a platform that really is going to accelerate productivity in the enterprise, in many different contexts for business. So I think it's pretty exciting what you've created, and I think it'll be pretty exciting to watch as Glean becomes much more prevalent. You're on a great growth trajectory, and I certainly wish you all the best. Arvin, I want to thank you for spending time with myself and the CDO Magazine audience. And I would encourage everybody to go to cdomagazine.tech and watch this interview. We'll also be putting out an article and to check out some of the other interviews on the site. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Kirk.